Well, good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ+ daily evening television news. We are broadcasting live and then available on demand. And we're available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, and of course, YouTube and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Monday, September 26, 2022. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ+ community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ+ evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ+ news, you will see it and hear it.
Happening Out Television Network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio model of PBS and NPR, but designed for our LGBTQ+ community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ+ media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 36 years of the LGBTQ+ experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ+ and broader community.
Let's begin by welcoming anchor FayWhat. She's a radio and television personality and has a popular blog and YouTube channel aiming to unite the L and the G together. She's a hostess and MC for many South Florida events, an animal advocate, and owner of Fay's Fur Family. Also, make sure to catch the FayWhat Show, the first LGBTQ+ morning show, Mondays at 9 a.m. Eastern, online, and of course, your smart television. Good evening, Faye.
What's up, my homos? I am so excited to be here. And look, this morning, if you missed the FayWhat Show, make sure you catch it right now on demand. Well, after Queer News Tonight, of course. Okay, because we had the mayor of Wilton Manor, Scott Newton, in bed this morning on the FayWhat Show.
You interviewed the mayor
of Wilton Manors in bed in pajamas. It was incredible. I mean, I never thought he'd say yes, folks. I never thought that a straight guy that's the mayor of Wilton Manors would sit in bed in pajamas with a lesbian, and he did.
A lesbian.
God is the best.
Let me say something was interesting. Late this morning, I was at Java Joe's on Wilton Drive, and two people stopped at the table. I was having a meeting. Two people had seen your interview, and the thing that I said last week really stood out, and I think there's going to be a lot of digestion of his conversation about, and your prompt questions of, would he be a better mayor of Wilton Manors if he were gay? That was an interesting conversation. Congratulations to you to get the mayor in bed. I had no doubt. I had no doubt.
He's an incredible ally. All right. Okay. So let's welcome next up anchor Victor Diaz-Herman. He's a first-generation Cuban-American advocate, activist, fundraiser, and strategist. He serves as the CEO of Pride Lines, South Florida's oldest direct services agency for LGBTQ people. He is also COO of Worth International Media Group with exclusive brands such as Recommend and Preview. In the business of creating stylish, engaging, and content-rich media solutions for the global travel and tourism industry for over 50 years. Good evening, Victor. Welcome back.
Hey, Faye, thanks for having me back. I'm so excited to be here. I can't tell you how excited I am to also let everybody know that this is Pride Line's 40th anniversary, and we are now getting ready to celebrate our 40th anniversary with our fabulous Pride Lines Masquerade Gala taking place on December 10th. Ooh. I know everybody's already done their research, but if you haven't, you can go on to PridelineMasquerade.com to get your tickets.
And that's December what, Victor?
That's December 10th.
Woohoo!
And where is it going to be?
It's going to be at the Coral Gables Country Club.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful historic property.
Excellent.
And we're very excited.
Get your tickets today.
Get them now. And with that said, let's welcome anchor Chef Josie. She's a Bravo TV top chef and the master of the popular champagne and oyster celebration restaurant, Bubbles and Pearls, in the heart of the famous Wilton Drive. She's also known by her alter ego, DJ Lady Snack Daddy. Welcome, Chef Josie.
Hey guys, what's going on? So it's always a pleasure to be here, and I'm super excited to share with you guys about our new website that we've created for Bubbles and Pearls. We finally have dropped the N and we have the and you can go and find us at bubblesandpearls.com. Check us out. Yeah. And not only that, but you can make your reservations online now. You can reach out and stay in contact with me. You can invest in our next Bubbles and Pearls in your town, in your airport, and you can even tap into me for some consulting, whatever. Just, you can call me if you need some consulting.
Reach out to the new website.
Yeah, reach out to the new website.
Again, one more time.
Bubblesandpearls.com.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, well,
I think you want to talk about the special.
Yeah. Oh, okay, well, let's get to it then. Let's welcome our next anchor, CJ Walden. He is the Vice President of Prism's Board of Directors, a writer at the South Florida Gay News, and a freelance photographer. Their motto is, quote, "I cannot sit idly by while people of color and the LGBTQ plus community face exasperated discrimination." Good evening, CJ.
Well, thank you for having me, and I just want to say happy belated Bi Plus Awareness Week to everyone. Yeah. Prism just recently launched a new Choose Your Own interactive story game regarding to Bi Plus awareness, so I'd love if everyone were to check it out at prism.fl on our Instagram. But we are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Monday, September 26, 2022.
Well, let's begin by queering up the worldview. Big news. Cuba votes on gay marriage as the first undecided democratic election in 63 years, before I was born. In 1976, Cuba held the first nationwide election since the Cuban Revolution in a referendum that adopted a new constitution for that nation. The constitution required the government to provide health care and education to the citizens, all of the citizens, as well as granting the right to free speech and the right to assemble. In 2019, another referendum was held that modified the Constitution again to provide better structure to the government, allow Cubans to own private property, and to ban discrimination based on gender, race, ethnic origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, and disability. Marriage equality was originally part of that new Constitution, but was left out at the last minute after pressure from conservatives and the church. The previous ban on same-sex marriage was removed and replaced with more neutral language. This was followed in 2021 with a draft of a new proposed family code that changed laws to reflect marriage no matter the genders of those involved, and also allowed for same-sex adoption and allowed parents who give birth with the aid of medical treatments to adopt their children. Yesterday, the nation voted on the inclusion of same-sex marriage, and experts on the politics of the island observe that this is the first democratic vote on the island since the 1959 revolution, where the outcome was not known before the election. This new family code was voted in yesterday with exit polls showing approximately 67% of all voters approving the final changes. Final results will be released officially on Friday. This is gigantic news. It's gigantic news. Regardless of where you sit politically and your opinions about what is going on in Cuba, I focus on the news for the LGBTQ community. It is a reflection, first and foremost, that an incredibly conservative Latino community of Cuba has finally said, we are going to implement the final, most important charge of LGBT rights, which is your recognition in family and marital status. Adoption status was already possible, but this finally puts the rest the issue. And the other big news in this breaking news of what happened in the vote yesterday is that it is a significant number. First, remember that they've done something that the United States never did, which is all of the people vote on what they felt about LGBT rights in marriage. And they did something that our U.S. Congress hasn't been able to do, which is to pass an Equality Act to do the exact same thing that Cuba has done. Now, that's not to embrace Cuba's politics in any way, just to say they seem to be a bit ahead of us in terms of public embracement of the LGBTQ community. And above all else, we've seen over the last decade a significant progress on the island for the LGBTQ community. Josie and I went to Havana Pride with Happening Out, and we're seeing progress go on in Cuba, and we celebrate that news today of what happened yesterday in the vote.
I'm curious to hear what Victor has to say as the Cuban American advocate that you are.
So I tread cautiously because we walk the fine line between progress and pinkwashing. And one thing is what we get to hear, what we get to see that's provided to us. And then the other thing is the reality of the lives that people live in Cuba, and whether or not these steps in the right direction really do impact queer families in Cuba when the cameras aren't on.
Do you think this vote will not positively affect LGBT Cubans?
Well, I think every step in the right direction is a good step. So I would like to imagine that it will help to impact the lives of Cuban citizens that are living openly. But I don't know. I don't know, because there's the reality that I hear from family members in Cuba, or from family that go visit family members in Cuba, about what life is actually like. And then there's what we're shown, right? When we're hosted to go on trips and see how great they are. It's two different stories.
You know, I want to point out, and I clearly understand the point that you just made. I have a very significant number of LGBT and allies on island. I've been, 10, 12 more times, overwhelmingly since yesterday. The messaging to me from the island from LGBT is overwhelming. Crying emojis. They had the same kind of response that we had with the White House being lit up on the Supreme Court decision in Cuba. Now, the effects in every other aspect of their lives is a completely different story, which I hear.
Why now, Al? Okay, you said that the last time they had a Democratic vote was back in 1959.
Yeah, well,
okay?
that was before Castro came to power, that there was any Democratic voting. Well, there's the question, and I think Victor makes a really good point in terms of the pink washing. You could suspiciously say that they're diverting attention from other problems that they have in Cuba with this idea that they're
look at the shiny ball.
Well, but the one problem that I have with that argument, and I have with my Cuban American friends in South Florida, is why would they go to the extent where they would allow a vote? First off, they're opening a door that's kind of dangerous for them. When people have the ability to make a decision by an open election that is undecided, they get a taste of it and they're going to want it again. Yesterday is a door that they opened that is interesting to me of what will happen. So that kind of dismisses the pink washing argument for me, in that they let Cuban society make this decision, and overwhelmingly Cuban society said, we're embracing the idea that we're embracing LGBT and we're going to allow you to marry, which is antithetical for Latino communities generally, the experience, and it is a progression of Cuban putting their money literally where their mouth is. They are far more trans supportive than America. They don't pay for transition service, surgery. There's many things that we're watching. Cinesex, Mariela Castro, who has led, Raul Castro's daughter, who has led Cinesex and the education of Cuban society on the LGBTQ community, is quite controversial, especially in the South Florida community, I understand. But she has been very consistent to be a revolutionary and supporting LGBT simultaneously. And so I give them at least the benefit of the doubt. Today, I celebrate the news of marriage and give them the benefit of the doubt.
And you know what? And like, let's just like call it what it is, you know? Like, let's see the proof is in the pudding right now. Our country and the United States, okay, as powerful as we are, just went back 50 years on basically on women's rights and our bodies, right? Yeah. And Cuba, the country that is a communistic country that everyone talks so poorly and badly about their politics and how screwed up their country is. Growing up here in South Florida, I know a thing or two about the opinion. But look at them. They're progressing forward. So maybe communism, maybe some of these social changes, maybe these social challenges are exactly what we need in order to move us in the right direction so we know exactly what it is we don't want. You know, and maybe now maybe Cuba is going to become a free island. And wouldn't that be amazing? Because for all the Cubans I've grown up around here in South Florida, man, I pray that that's what they get. That this is just the first step to a liberated Cuba.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, and on that note, let's queer up South Florida gay news. Finalists for SFGN Best of South Florida Favorite Television Personality announced. Last month, South Florida Gay News asked its readers to vote for their favorite restaurants, people, hangouts, and charities. Thousands of votes were cast in more than 100 categories. The readers chose the top 3 nominees in each category, while the other 2 nominees were chosen by the staff. Each year, SFGN divides the contest up by county, giving readers in Palm Beach County, Broward, Miami-Dade, and Monroe County a chance to vote for their local favorites and to showcase LGBTQ+ friendly establishments throughout South Florida. SFGN is now conducting SFGN's Best of 2022 contest, and the voting line's already open. Voters can cast only one vote once per day per county. All the instructions are available on the SFGN's official website. This year's contest is extra special to our Happening Out team, as we have one of our favorite hosts, FayWhat, nominated in the Best Local TV Personality category, where she is competing with other, maybe not as known names, such as Craig Stevens of WSVN 7 News, Brandon Orr of WPLG Local 10, Steve McLaughlin of NBC 6, and Ted Scooten of CBS Miami. Our favorite queer-friendly Sunshine Cathedral is also nominated under the Best Spiritual Centers category. Along with Sunshine Cathedral, 6 other spiritual centers, namely Church of the Holy Spirit Song, Center for Spiritual Living, United Church of Christ Fort Lauderdale, Holy Angels Catholic Church, Sunshine Cathedral MCC, and Unity on the Bay are also nominated. Chef Josie is also nominated, both as Best Chef and for her restaurant Bubbles and Pearls. Queer News Tonight anchor Glenn Weinzimmer's restaurant, Bona Italian, made the finalist for Best Restaurant. Queer News Tonight anchor Max Fenning is nominated for Best New Activist, and my charity, Pride Lines, is also nominated for Best Nonprofit. Make sure you vote for your favorites today at sfgn.com/best of. Well, I'd like to begin by telling everybody that you should vote for FayWhat, Josie, Max, Bona. Let's start.
Unbiased
campaign,
journalist
right?
of us, but
But you know, this is always such a fun contest in our community. We all look forward to it. We look forward to nominating people and voting for people. And it's a tight community.
Yeah, Faye, I'm curious, what did you feel when you saw the nomination?
I was blown away, and I even called our own John Hayden, who's another anchor here, and he works at SFGN, and I'm like, did you have something to do with this? Tell me if you did something. And he's like, I didn't do anything, Faye. So I'm beyond humbled. I don't think I'm going to win. I mean, look, Steve McLaughlin is hot as hell. Craig Stevens is hot as hell, all right? And all the gay boys who love me are thinking their penises over me. So I get it, but Rest aside, I am using everybody's emails and voting for myself.
Yeah.
So there's a huge possibility that FayWhat might come home with the crown.
Oh.
But honestly, let me say something. I have always looked up to SFGN's best stuff. We all have, right? So like to even be in it is like beyond. I would have never expected to, and I'm totally happy about it.
And Josie, you've won before.
Yeah, I have.
Well,
Yeah.
Josie's got like 5 trophies. Like, no, not
We're out
fair.
of
Give me one
6
of those.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So you got the nomination for 22.
Yeah.
But wait. This is an important year of nomination because we're coming out of pandemic.
Yeah.
Bubbles and Pearls was crippled like everybody else
man.
for a long time. So what was your reaction when you saw?
You know, listen, there's been a lot of new kids on the block who have come into Wilton Manors, and I get it. When you're hot, and Wilton Manors, we're finicky like that. We're like, let's just go and support the new shiny, the new shiny thing. So my team, obviously Marcy and I were always humbled when we received the support from our community, and this nod is like, I get it. I get the nomination. It's just funny. Like we got nominated for a finalist for the best vegan restaurant, and it's like, I know I became vegan, and then all of a sudden we started like promoting vegan dishes, and I added a lot of vegan food to the menu, and now we're like best vegan. I'm like, okay, well. Thank God for my meat-eating friends, who are going to vote for that off-the-chain ribeye.
That ribeye is ridiculous. It's so good.
Don't worry, I'm not going to go all vegan because, listen, I'm in the business to feed everyone, and that veganism is a choice. So,
and your damn chop.
but I really do appreciate it. It's humbling, especially like even today. I got some terrible press, from a woman who writes for Gawker, and they just don't let it. They don't let it go, and they keep on perpetuating stories that are 10 years old. So it's good to know.
And I think that is the soundbite of SFGN's Best of South Florida. This award, this recognition, everybody wins. No matter whether you win or not, everybody wins because it focuses on community. It focuses on the value of our community, and that's why Best of South Florida, everybody vote. Get in there and vote for all of the different kinds. There's 100 categories. Vote. And
Vote
make
for
sure
Max.
we remind you, Max and Josie and Bubbles and Pearls and Pride Lines and Bona and Glenn Weinsheimer. And one other thing, and whoever you want to vote for, just go on and vote. That's the important thing. The one thing that I would say about the personality category is when we did Stonewall Pride and did the broadcast on Apple and Roku, we yelled out at McLaughlin when he came by and he waved and all of that. And he's cute as the devil.
He is cute.
But as you say, we're going to vote for the best penises in the award. All right, all those guys running, but there's only one person in that category that talks about consistently every single day LGBT. First, I say that. No disrespect to all of them because we love all of you.
Yeah.
We love your representation in our community. But even more important than that, there's only one girl in that competition.
Yeah.
And
Wow,
I
that's
loved that. That's what brings me to a stop. Wait, that's fantastic that there's a lesbian face in this category. There's a lesbian face in this category. There's lesbian business representation.
Let's
in
go
this category.
lesbians.
And exactly. And all of the diversity that we reflect in the community is really what's really, really important. Win or lose, the fact that we recognize the diversity, then it's a win for all of us. So go to sfgn.com/best of or /best of and vote. It's really important for everybody and to support our community.
Vote for me. Next up, we queer up drag culture. Historic 50th anniversary of Miss Florida FI happens next week. Florida is getting ready to attend one of the most awaited social events of the year. The popular season is returning to entertain Florida residents. This event marks the 50th anniversary of the Miss Florida FI pageantry, which will take place on October 2nd and 3rd. Participants and viewers will be able to enjoy the pageant for 2 spectacular nights filled with excitement. This year's pageant will feature Miss Florida at Large, Miss Florida Supreme, Mr. Florida ME, and Miss Florida FI. The venue of this pageant will be the elegant Crystal Ballroom at the Manor, Fort Lauderdale, on the famous Wilton Drive. On Sunday, October 2nd, 3 pageants will be held, with Miss Florida FI at Large, Mr. Florida ME, and Miss Florida FI Supreme pageants. Then on Monday, October 3rd, the 50th anniversary of Miss Florida FI pageant will be conducted. The event will be attended by some of the top named female impersonators and movie, TV, and fashion stars from across the US of A and beyond. A huge gathering of past Miss Florida FI winners will be present. In the past, Miss Florida FI celebrity judges included Casey and the Sunshine Band, Boy George, and Sylvester were present. The importance of this pageantry can be understood from the fame and popularity the previous winners have received. Former winners of Miss Florida FI have made successful careers in TV, movies, and coveted lead roles in shows and cabarets, including Las Vegas and P-Town. This is going to be an incredible 2 nights to go and support our entertainers. I am actually one of the judges on Sunday night, and I'm super excited about that there. And, you know, they are going to be honoring Velvet Lenore. They're going to be honoring Melanie Monroe that are the past winners, you know, and it's just going to be 2 fun-filled days of just entertainment. And these ladies are bringing it. Like, they are bringing it. They are ready to compete.
Yeah, those pictures, I have never attended one of these Miss Florida pageants, and I would love to go. So yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, awesome.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
You got invited to judge. You got invited to go. Where do I get tickets?
I have a doctor's appointment.
I know.
That day. I'm going to have to cancel in order to go.
Oh my God.
You know what's really interesting about the event is, first off, think about the history here. This 1969 Stonewall happens in New York. 3 years later, the first Miss Florida FI pageant. That's how historic this is. I totally admire and respect the Miss Florida pageant. When I wasn't here in the South Florida community, one of the handful of pageants in all of America in its importance was Miss Florida FI. Everywhere in the country, really in the world in terms of pageants, Miss Florida FI was that. I love this 50th anniversary, and they continue to embrace Miss Florida FI. Female impersonators. There are no female impersonators. There haven't been female impersonators in a long time because we don't have female impersonators anymore. Even the phrase is archaic. However, it shows you the history of this moment, that for 50 years, this pageant for Miss Florida started as a female impersonator pageant identified with Miss Florida. There's the Miss Florida pageant that we all know, Miss USA, Florida, etc. Miss America, Miss Florida going. This was the counterpart in 1972 of going, this is Miss Florida as a female impersonator, and they've held the name. I totally respect what they've done, and it represents the history of this event. So this coming Monday, I'm not going to miss it, of course, because of the history of the 50th anniversary and a slew of past participants, and Miss Floridas are coming to the event. And also, by the way, if you can't get to the Crystal Ballroom to watch Miss Florida, you know how you can still participate?
Oh, happening out.
Broadcasting the pageant live. We're
Wow.
the entire event. So watch it or come to it, but participate and celebrate the history of our LGBTQ community. 50 years of history we're going to celebrate this weekend, and we're really excited to do it.
Well, next, let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Terror in Gainesville as North Central Florida Pride Community Center attacked and vandalized. With less than a month from the return of in-person LGBTQ+ Pride after a gap of 2 years owing to the COVID-19 pandemic, the staff of the Pride Community Center of North Central Florida were alerted to vandalism at the center early Saturday morning. PCC-NCF board member Debbie Lewis told Gainesville ABC News affiliate WCJB20 that she received a call from a real estate office in the same complex about their building being vandalized. After getting this alert, Lewis immediately reached out to the PCC-NCF board vice chair, James Brown. Brown later talked to ABC 20 saying, quote, "Early today and in the pit of my stomach right now it's heartbreaking to see a building that we pour so much love and energy into being vandalized by people that were obviously targeting us because of the work we do here," end quote. During the initial investigation by Gainesville police, a message was discovered attached to a rock That message is currently not being disclosed, although a police spokesperson said that Gainesville Police Department is investigating the incident as a hate crime. Gainesville is home to the University of Florida and is a rare blue island in the red nature of North Florida and the Panhandle. PCC NCF Board President Tamara Perry-Lunardo told local media outlets that the vandals will not detour their work in the community. So, you know, we're currently in a climate across the country where we're feeling the attack on our community, and it's coming in these what may seem off the radar, off the beaten path places. It's the small attacks, it's the large attacks. We seem to be attacked from all angles at the moment, and it's this kind of stuff under someone like DeSantis, okay, who is the governor here, vote in November. But Governor DeSantis, who is creating an unsafe environment for the LGBTQ community. You know, radical right groups, again, speaking out against LGBTQ, and we're seeing this kind of thing happening all across the country. What I have to say, and you've heard me say this before, it's time for our community to get tough, okay? We are survivors. We have been fighters in the entire history of LGBTQ. Now is not the time for us to cower, but now is the time for us to be smart about how we, you know, engage with these people, because rocks through and vandalization of our spaces, listen, that's just violence, right? But we need to vote. We need to take it into the courts. We need to take it to their pockets. We need to attack them where it's really going to hurt them, and not just physical.
Amen. Run for political office again. I miss you. This is so sad. You know, after what happened here at Sunshine a couple months ago, my God, because that was right there. That's our home. You know, and it just reminds us of, just like you said, of just the amount of hate that's still out there, and it's targeting our community. You know, part of me doesn't want to know what's on that note that they're not telling us, you know, because it's just going to solidify how much we're hated. You know, but we also forget how South Florida is this small, right? We're like safe and fine down here, but DeSantis doesn't make it safe for us in the rest of the state.
It's funny though, because Josie's story reflects that. Gainesville's a bubble too. The University of Florida is there. Of everything north of Orlando, it's the one island in North Florida and the entire Panhandle that is a blue bubble. A little surprising because Gainesville is
liberal,
a place that is definitely
gay friendly.
Gay friendly. Voted for Biden. Alachua County was generally carried by blue. So this is a surprise. But the one thing that doesn't surprise us and shouldn't surprise us is you can't preach hate over and over and over again and not expect that people are going to hear the charge and the challenge. Absolutely. And they're going to do things. If the worst thing that happens this year is breaking out all of the windows at the Pride Center in Gainesville, we'll have a good year. I very much suspect this will not be the worst story that we tell, or that Sunshine is defaced in signs. We're going to see worse and worse. And after the November 8th election, if what could happen here in Florida and over the next 2 years of who is the leadership in Florida moves toward the White House, this is a situation that is only going to get worse.
And if I can point out, South Florida has been known as a bubble. But that bubble is very, at this point, it's about to be popped. We're seeing the needle come closer and closer with decisions that are being made at the school board level, with the elected officials that are being elected into office. And as somebody that runs a community center, I can tell you that DeSantis has fueled the fires of hate, encouraged people to step up and get loud. And we have received increasing number of threatening voicemails calling us groomers, pedophiles.
We're at Pride Lines.
At Pride Lines, telling us to get out of town, that we're sickos. And that's always been part of the work, but now more so. There's FEMA grants that we're applying for safety. The reality is this country right now, as much as I believe that there is a path forward and a light at the end of the tunnel, needs to your point, Josie, needs to get loud, step up, and act. And not in the way that we've done in the past where we are playing politics, but in the way that politics has evolved since Trump was in office, which is the loudest voice gets the votes.
Yeah, and Victor, before CJ moves on to talk about Biden at the UN, one last question. When this news happened really yesterday, and we report on it, I thought about you because I talked about Pride Center at Equality Park here in Wilton Manors, and then Pride Center or Pride Lines in Miami-Dade County as a community center. What's your reaction to what happened in Gainesville in terms of how you internalize it for Pride Lines in Miami?
As a professional that does this work, it's heartbreaking and equally concerning, and it makes me, or it reminds me that what we need to be doing now is making sure that these spaces that are safe and affirming that we've created for our community can be maintained. And unfortunately, that's now part of this conversation is, what does that mean in terms of physical safety, right? Not just for people coming into our center, but for people leaving our center on their way home. We've seen time and time again footage of the Proud Boys or organizations going after people in protest or going after people going to events and not just stopping once they're gone, but following them home, phone calling their parents. It's a difficult time. It's a different world. And so we have to be proactive at looking at how we continue to be safe and affirming space for our community in these times.
Yeah, far greater than a brick through a window.
Yeah,
far greater.
Yeah.
Let's queer up politics. Biden embraces LGBTQ+ at UN. In a speech before the UN at the General Assembly this week, President Biden championed the importance of LGBTQ+ rights abroad. Biden declared, quote, "The future will be won by those countries that unleash the full potential of their populations, where women and girls can exercise equal rights, including basic reproductive rights, and contribute fully to building stronger economies and more resilient societies, where religious and ethnic minorities can live their lives without harassment and contribute to the fabric of their communities, where the LGBTQ+ community individuals live and love freely without being targeted with violence, where citizens can question and criticize their leaders without fear of reprisal," end quote. He directed agencies to combat the criminalization of LGBTQ+ identities, protect LGBTQ+ refugees and asylum seekers, and provide foreign assistance to advance non-discrimination efforts around the world. The LGBTQ+ community is loving what Biden is doing for the queer people. This weekend, British music superstar Elton John was invited to the White House for a concert where the U.S. President Joe Biden surprised him by awarding the National Humanities Medal. The president called Elton a tidal wave who helped people rise up for justice. Sir Elton John seemed almost overcome by the accolades. Addressing the audience, he said, quote, "I don't know what to say. I don't know how to take a compliment very well, but it's wonderful to be here amongst so many people who have helped my AIDS Foundation and my heroes," end quote. President Biden was scheduled to speak here in Fort Lauderdale tomorrow, but has postponed the visit because of the approach of Hurricane Ian. Queer News Tonight will be at the press conference. I just want to say that I was invited to this event at the White House. I unfortunately couldn't go, but this was Elton John's last tour, and I think it is wonderful that he received this medal because he deserves it for all of the hard work he's done for the community.
Now, is this the same medal that dumbass Cheerio guy, Cheez-It guy, whatever you want to call Mr. Trump, gave to Rush Limbaugh? Not the same medal, right?
The Humanities Medal is an artistic award. It's not the same thing.
Oh, okay, good. Good. He's so deserving, of course.
You know, don't you think that it's interesting that at a time when we have the most embracing president, arguably, in American history to the LGBTQ community, arguing that same embracement to the rest of the world, that we face the issues that we're facing in the United States, the the polar contradiction is just stark, which makes what he did at the UN on Friday so much more important, in my opinion.
I mean, with what happened in Cuba, that's not going to be a one-off thing. It's going to happen around the world.
Yeah.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. with more than 30,000 watching every week.
I'm Mayra Hidalgo Salazar, the Deputy Executive Director of the National LGBTQ Task Force. We are the world's largest civil rights organization, and we are stronger when all of us stand together. That's why Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Well, we've finished tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up drag culture. From LGBTQ plus news partner Pink News and writer Amelia Hansford. Drag Race star Cherry Valentine dead at 28 as she stood up against claim drag queens trying to make children homosexual.
Can I just ask this? Now, this is certainly not something I mean myself. I'm just asking this genuinely because this is what a lot of people might say. Some people might say is it forcing some kind of homosexuality onto kids or something like that? That's one of the things that a lot of the more conservative, especially Americans, would say.
Mm-hmm. I think that's an absolute outrageous idea, to be honest, that drag forces people to be a homosexual. And like she's just mentioned, sex and gender are completely different things. They really are. Sex, like myself, I can only go off my own opinions, but I'm a man. That's my sex. But my gender is so fluid, and sometimes I feel more feminine, sometimes I feel more masculine. And I think drag allows people, and especially children when they're growing up, to really just help them navigate it all, because we are being thrown things like phrases, we're being thrown new words constantly all the time. And I think, like, I personally, I'm also a qualified mental health nurse.
Right.
So I wouldn't class myself as a sexual person in drag. I just use it for artistic reasons. I use it for self-expression, to play with gender, to really like question what we think is like how we should be in a society.
The queer community lost a gem last week when a drag icon whose real name was George Ward tragically passed away at just 28 years old. Their stage name was RuPaul's Drag Race star Cherry Valentine. Stars including Cheryl Hole paid tribute to Ward. He described Ward as a talented and beautiful person, while others recalled the work Ward did as a mental health advocate since qualifying in 2015. In June, Ward participated in a debate on GB News where they expertly outlined why claiming that drag is blanketly inappropriate for children is really silly. When the news anchor asked Valentine, quote, "Is it forcing some kind of homosexuality on kids?" end quote, Valentine said that it is an absolutely outrageous idea to think that drag forces homosexuality on children. Valentine continues by saying that sex and gender are two different things, and drag allows children to navigate through all the emotions, labels, and phases that might be thrown at them while growing up. Find more at pinknews.co.uk.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up business. From LGBTQ plus news partner, The Advocate, and writer Sarah Carson. Lesbian founder of fashion brand LEOTA explains why she had to come out. Sarah Carson, head of LEOTA New York, has recently opened up about her struggle as a lesbian in the fashion world and why did she decide to come out. She wrote an article in The Advocate sharing her journey. Carson has been out in her personal life since she was 19, but not in the professional world. In the article, she says, quote, "We all know how women need to obscure our lives, our personal lives in business because it could be held against us professionally. I'm not sure how much of it was sexism and how much of it was homophobia, but fear of both kept me compartmentalizing," end quote. She says this covering the identity and compartmentalizing made her exhausted and angry after a while. Hence, she decided to start her own brand where she could be herself. Carson says, quote, "I want anyone to be able to put on LEOTA and feel like $1 million. LEOTA is for all. I mean men, women, non-binary, trans, everyone." Find out more at advocate.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up gay culture. From LGBTQ plus news partner San Francisco Gate and writer Sam Moore. Here are the hot moments of 2022 Folsom Street Fair. The sounds of techno music filled San Francisco's Soma district on Sunday as thousands gathered for the Folsom Street Fair. The event has been a perfect celebration of the city's kink scene for more than 39 years, serving as a space where people can openly express aspects of BDSM lifestyle that typically don't get to see the light of day. As always, attendees came dressed in their Folsom best: latex suits, furry costumes, lingerie, classic leather harnesses, or nothing at all. In a city that embraces nudity more than most, this may be the best event to show up in your birthday suit. Though the fog and cold ocean breeze disturbed the event, the sun was out for most of the day. Find out more at sfgate.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up Road to Stonewall. From LGBTQ plus news partner Gay City News and writer Matt Tracy. National LGBTQ Museum plans History Month events. The forthcoming American LGBTQ plus museum, which is planned to open in 2024 as an extension of the New York Historical Society, is conducting a week of virtual and in-person events in October to mark LGBTQ plus History Month. Letty Gomez, the programming committee co-chair of the American LGBTQ plus Museum, published a written statement saying, quote, "LGBT History Month occurs in October specifically because of the number of important historical moments in LGBTQ plus history that happened in October," end quote. The festivities will start on October 11th with a virtual panel discussion commemorating the 35th anniversary of the 1987 March on Washington for lesbian and gay rights. This historical march took place when the fight against the AIDS epidemic was on the rise. Find out more at gaycitynews.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up lesbian culture. From LGBTQ plus news partner GLAAD and writer Allison Bloom. The Amazing Races lesbian couple talk about why representation matters in historic season. The Emmy award-winning CBS reality series The Amazing Race is back. The 34th season premiered on September 21st. The season also features an engaged couple named Ayashta Lal and Nina Dung. GLAAD's Anthony Allen Ramos had a chat with the couple on Instagram Live. Lal talked about how it has always been a dream of hers to compete on the show. She said, quote, "I've been watching ever since I was a wee little lass. Then for the preparation for the race, I made Nina Dung watch too," end quote. Dung revealed she had never actually seen the show until she met Atasha and was immediately hooked. The couple is excited for LGBTQ plus audience members to watch them compete. Watch the full interview and find out more at glad.org.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up religion. From LGBTQ plus news partner LGBTQ Nation and writer Greg Owen. Anti-LGBTQ Christian college founder sexually abused hundreds of young men. This week, the daughters of a founder at Christian Grace College in Indiana came forward with a shocking revelation. Their father had sexually abused an estimated 100 to 200 male students over his 40-year career at the school. Don Ogden, who died in 2015, was the founder of the school's music program. His daughters, Diane and Kathleen, disclosed the abuse in a 6-page statement shared with the Christian Post. Christian Grace College officially bans LGBTQ plus students. from attending. The school's catalog bans homosexual behavior and compares it to other sins like adultery, greed, and drunkenness. The statement said, quote, "Our father used his position, his power, his wit, and persuasion to gain the trust of young men, and later perpetrated crimes against them that would change their lives forever." We realize, looking back, that this was sadly still going on when he was 80 years old, end quote. Find more at lgbtqnation.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up gay culture. From LGBTQ plus news partner Metro Weekly and writer John Riley. Plans announced for Northern Virginia, D.C. LGBTQ Community Center by 2027. The Equality Loudon Board of Directors is implementing a 5-year strategic plan to open its own LGBTQ plus community center. The community center will serve as a gathering space for LGBTQ plus individuals and their allies. It will include a recreational area, an inclusive library, an employment resource area, a food assistance pantry, and an area to hold meetings for local groups or nonprofits. The center will also have an LGBTQ plus affirming medical space. According to what Chris Candice Tuck, president of Equality Loudon, told Metro Weekly, quote, "The end goal is to essentially create a very specialized building that can meet a number of different needs. In the first phase of planning, we want to at least open a place that has a recreation and gathering space so that people can be safe. That alone can help reduce rates of suicide and mental health issues," end quote. Find more out at metroweekly.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up entertainment. From LGBTQ plus news partner Pride.com and writer Rachel Shadow. Gay Christmas is Halloween, as queer horror film Knock at the Cabin is here. The danger comes from knocking in the first trailer for M. Night Shyamalan's new queer horror film Knock at the Cabin. The film is based on Paul Tremblay's terrifying novel The Cabin at the End of the World. It follows a young girl and her fathers who are taken hostage by 4 armed strangers who demand that the family make an unthinkable choice to avert the danger. With the limited access to the outside world, the family must decide what they believe before all is lost. The trailer shows Andrew, Eric, and their daughter, Wen, heading off for a remote vacation at a cabin in the woods. The gay couple settle in, sing songs, jump into the lake, and connect in bucolic, peaceful settings. The idyllic getaway is shattered, however, when a man emerges from the woods.
Are we gonna sing along?
Yes, of course!
I wanna put on my boogie shoes. Yeah! I wanna put on my boogie shoes.
My name's Leonard. Well, it's nice to meet you, Wen.
Why are you here?
I suppose I'm here to make friends with you. And your dad's too. But my heart is broken.
Why is it broken?
Because of what I have to do today.
There I see a woman carrying something that looks like a pick with a chain and a mallet in it.
You see, the 4 of us have a very important job to do. In fact, it might be the most important job in the history of the world. We were called and are united by a common vision, which has now become a command that we cannot ignore. The four of us are here to prevent the apocalypse. Your family has been chosen to make a horrible decision. If you fail to choose, the world will end.
Gay Christmas is Halloween. Find out more at pride.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up health from LGBTQ plus news partner Queerty and writer David Hudson. Congressman Mondaire Jones inspires gay men with monkeypox video vaccination challenge.
Hey everyone, it's Congressman Mondaire Jones here, and I just got my second dose of the monkeypox vaccine at Westchester Medical Center's drive-through clinic in Valhalla. Getting vaccinated is a safe and effective way to stop the spread of monkeypox. We know that monkeypox impacts all of us, but in particular, communities of color have faced barriers to necessary medical care because of stigma and other systemic inequities. It's why I'm so excited to be doing my part in preventing the spread, and I encourage you to do the same. Go to health.newyork.gov and click on monkeypox and find out where you can go get vaccinated.
Mondaire Jones, the Democratic representative for New York's 17th Congressional District, has helped raise awareness around the monkeypox vaccine. Jones, along with fellow Representative Richie Torres, also a Democrat, were the first out gay black members of Congress when elected in 2021. The current monkeypox outbreak is disproportionately affecting gay and bisexual men. Authorities in New York have also previously announced that more white men are getting vaccinated against the virus than those from black and Hispanic communities. Jones lost his re-election bid in last month's primary. On this backdrop, Jones, 35, filmed himself having his second monkeypox shot. In the caption, he said, quote, "Monkeypox is hitting LGBTQ plus communities of colors particularly hard," end quote. Find more at queerty.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up Road to Stonewall. From LGBTQ plus news partner, the Georgia Voice, and writer Katie Burkholder. Atlanta Pride makes safe return, and it's not too late to attend. This October, Atlanta Pride is going to be an in-person festival after 2 years of cancellations due to COVID-19. From October 7th through 9, thousands of people from around the country will gather in Piedmont Park to enjoy this year's diverse lineup of entertainment, vendors, marches, the annual parade, and so much more. While Atlanta Pride is making its return, that doesn't mean COVID-19 is no longer a concern. The Atlanta Pride Committee, APC, is being mindful of the pandemic as well as the recent monkeypox epidemic and urges guests to do the same. While talking to Georgia Voice, Shenriota Cobbs, APC's communications and development strategist, said, quote, "We are aware of the high stakes right now, given that this is the first festival back in person after 2 years on hold because of COVID," end quote. She has also confirmed that masks will be provided at the event. Atlanta, especially for LGBTQ plus gigantic South Florida, is perfect for a weekend visit for Pride. Find out more at thegavoice.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up entertainment. From LGBTQ plus news partner Them and writer Samantha Rydell. Late night Seth Meyers delivers hilarious Bury Your Gays with Amber Ruffin. A talk show segment, Jokes Seth Can't Tell, on Late Night with Seth Meyers is popular among many. The host gives his writers a chance to shine. As Meyers explains in each segment, having a diverse writing staff means jokes get proposed every day that would be a little awkward to hear from Meyers' straight white mouth. But instead of eliminating the gags entirely, Meyers instead brings Amber Ruffin and Jenny Hagel on camera to deliver punchlines to the week's headlines from Black and gay perspectives, respectively. This week, after goofing on Lesbian Reading List and the backlash to Rings of Powers, Black Hobbits, Myers set Hagel up for one of the segment's standard joke structures. Quote, "What's the difference between a lesbian rom-com and a straight rom-com?" End quote. In straight romantic comedies, Hagel deadpanned, quote, "Everyone survives," end quote. The audience oohed at the sudden twist, and Hagel said, quote, "I don't know if you know this, but in lesbian movies and TV shows, lesbians always die every time. I might not live to the end of this segment," end quote. Find more at them.us.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up religion. From LGBTQ plus news partner Radar Online. Scientology leader alleged church mission to cover up John Travolta gay charges, including his jet pilot. According to RadarOnline.com, a former prominent Scientologist, Mike Rinder, who served as a senior executive within the Church of Scientology from 1982 to 2007, claimed he helped John Travolta dodge same-sex lover allegations in a memoir that will be published soon. He said, quote, "I was tasked with the job of helping John Travolta with some public relations issues. Since the beginning of the 90s, Travolta had been hounded by stories from various alleged male lovers, including one of his former pilots, as well as a porn star," end quote. The Grease actor got married to Kelly Preston, and the duo had quickly become Hollywood sweethearts. Rinder said the church was fully aware of the PR damage such claims could have on the perfect Scientology couple. Hence, the church dug up dirt on the sources of the stories and threatened the media with lawsuits. Find out more at RadarOnline.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up South Florida gay news. From LGBTQ plus news partner, South Florida Gay News. Norm Kent, iconic LGBTQ journalist and SFGN founder, recovering from a second brain surgery. Last week, Norm Kent underwent brain surgery to remove a benign tumor. Before the surgery, Kent announced he would step aside as publisher of SFGN. Once Kent recovers, he will focus on launching the SFGN Foundation. The foundation will focus on helping aspiring LGBTQ student journalists. He said, quote, "My aspirations and goals have always been to provide a voice for the LGBTQ community. Creating, maintaining, and ultimately perpetuating a foundation for young writers will enable me to achieve that goal," end quote. Just over a year ago, Kent underwent his first brain surgery to remove the tumor. But it was later discovered the tumor had returned and he would need another surgery. Kent, an attorney, has been at the forefront of the South Florida LGBTQ news community for decades. Find out more at southfloridagaynews.com. A postscript. Everyone at Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network wishes our colleague Norm Kent a speedy recovery.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up LGBTQ plus civil rights. From LGBTQ plus news partner Washington Blade and writer Michael K. Lavers. LGBTQ rights Free State Justice files lawsuit against former executive director. Free State Justice this week filed a federal lawsuit against its former executive director, who has accused its board of directors of having a white supremacist culture. The lawsuit is filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland. It notes that the board on September 16th informed Jeremy LeMaster that they were relieved of their duties, and the final 2 weeks of their employment were to be spent cooperating in the transition of Free State's operations. The lawsuit alleges that LeMaster, quote, unilaterally and without authorization changed user permissions and shared login information so only they had access to numerous systems and accounts, end quote. LeMaster, who uses non-binary and binary pronouns, announced their resignation after they said the board declined to step down. Find more at WashingtonBlade.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up politics. From LGBTQ plus news partner Windy City Times and writer Carrie Maxwell. Coalition warns displays candidate training sponsored by anti-LGBTQ plus groups. A coalition of parents, educators, and pro-LGBTQ plus, Pro-equity groups held a press conference over the weekend in front of the courtyard by Marriott Chicago O'Hare Hotel in Des Plaines to protest a school board candidate training being held inside the hotel. The training was sponsored by the anti-LGBTQ+ groups Awake Illinois and Moms for Liberty. Awake Illinois, Moms for Liberty, and Proud Boy members have shown up at school board meetings for over a year and a half to protest the inclusion of LGBTQ+ and BIPOC curriculum in books in Illinois public schools. The coalition also spoke about the increasing levels of hate targeting LGBTQ+ inclusive books in libraries and pride events, including family-friendly drag shows throughout Illinois. Find more at windycitytimes.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up gay culture. From LGBTQ plus news partner Axios and writer Celine Sanfelice. Tampa Pride on the River featured incredible boat parade. As the official website of Tampa Pride rightly says, this parade is a celebration of our successes in overcoming obstacles throughout history. Tampa Pride raises donations through various ways to conduct different events each year. Pride on the River is one such event that is held at the end of the summer. It takes place along the Hillsborough River and culminates with a family-friendly evening of entertainment, activities, and more. Activities include the Diversity Boat Parade, Drag Brunch, Riverside Festival, and a fireworks extravaganza. On Saturday, RuPaul's Drag Race stars Jiggly Caliente and Raja O'Hara headlined the day-long celebration, starting with a drag brunch before the Riverside Festival, Diversity Boat Parade, and more before tens of thousands. Pride on the River is unique because it is one of the few Pride boat parades in America. Find out more at Axios.com.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ+ community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ+ evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience, watching this live LGBTQ+ news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ+ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ+ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ+ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including FayWhat, Victor Diaz-Herman, Chef Josie, and CJ Walden. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ+ world, we wish you
good night.
LGBTQ+ news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ+